All right. All right. So we're good. All right. So we provided all the guidelines that you have to follow tonight. We'd really appreciate it if you respected those and followed those. So Turning Point USA is a nonpartisan organization, and as such, we do not associate ourselves with any political party. For the last 20 minutes of the event, we will be opening this up to a Q&A. We will be doing this on Twitter, so if you could use the hashtag AskMILO, MKE. It's going to be up there as well if you forget. So I will get this show on the road, and I'd like to welcome MILO to the stage.
Look at this way. Hello. What is this? What is this? Are they protecting you or me? They call these things cattle something or other. I can never remember. Good heavens. Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming. Sorry, I'm a bit late. Didn't have time to get dressed. Thank you, I know. All right. Well, we're not here, in fact, to have fun this evening. We're here to talk about something very serious. We'll have a little bit of fun on the way. We've had a bit of drama on the way in. A little bit of chaos from your crazy friends wandering around, shoving my cameraman about. Actually, no, it's true. It's actually, and because we are such a beautifully well-oiled machine, such a wonderful operation of the kind that only Republicans could put together. We can, in fact, share with you some of the lovely behavior of your fellow students towards innocent cameramen. Do we have that somewhere? Can we show that? Oh, there we go. Yeah. You see, it all happens very quickly.
USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Yes, I know the meaning of this now.
MILO. She doesn't even know my fucking name.
Hey, you're just pushing me. What are you grabbing me for? Yo, why are you guys pushing me?
Who's the one starting? Just USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Get away from my back.
No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
No KKK, no fascist USA! You guys are the real fascists!
USA! No MILO! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Pushing me?
No MILO!
These people are assaulting people! What are you talking about?
No one's trying to do something. Just stop. Hey, man.
What are you talking about?
Why are you in our faces with
You're
the
assaulting people! You are assaulting people!
You're a Nazi!
I'm a Nazi now! Can you prove that? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Fuck off! Do you know who I am? Give that shit! Is that what you guys got? You Kick shit! Do we attack people? Go home, Nazi scum! Go home, Nazi scum! I'm tired of being told by these fascists who to hate. You know what
Nazism has taken a very camp turn, if this is the face of...
That's the classic. That's the classic fascist. How is he not? How is he not? How is he not? Explain. He's a prejudiced racist. He's a prejudiced racist. How am I racist? Because I'm not white. Easy as that. Easy as that. You hear that? Because I am white, I am a racist.
Look at the name of his tour. Who is he downgrading?
This guy just discredited himself. Sorry, guys.
Racism comes from a position of power. Something called people don't have.
Who disagrees with that? Who disagrees with that? Yeah, we'll catch you outside the university. We'll have a conversation about it there. Yeah, come to the hood. I'll show you my face outside the university. How about we go fucking across the street? Let's go across the street. You're a leftist ideologue. You don't care about facts.
I don't care about you.
Center left liberal. You fucking idiot.
Well, if this is the face of neo-Nazism in America, Nazis got really gay. Good heavens, good heavens. Well, that's the standard of reasoned critique and grown-up debate that you can expect on American college campuses on the subject of race. I'm going to tell you this evening how this has happened, why it's happened, and more importantly, because I like to draw attention to villains, who did it? Now, first of all, we should talk a little bit about where we are. The land, Wisconsin, of cheese, alcohol, and clinically obese lesbians. They are. What's that, darling? Oh, he is. No, I know. He's been following me. He's been following me everywhere. He was in Iowa when I was in Iowa. Now he's here. I'm like, my God, please, just get your own thing. But it's okay. Cheese, alcohol, and obese lesbians, three things that really I couldn't live without. Now, my tour was planned. I'm using you. My tour was planned with such care by my staff that we're in Wisconsin and Minnesota in December, trying to kill me. They should have brought me up in the 1 month a year the weather is better here. The problem with the Midwest isn't the cold or the dikes, however. It is the proximity to Canada. You're going to have to... I mean, you've done some of the work so far this evening to convince me that you're not something approaching Trudeauian cucks. By dint of geography. We'll work it out over the course of the evening. Of course, the real cucks are over at UW-Madison. Now... Imagine how much worse it would have been if I'd shown up there. The only reason I didn't is I didn't want people to die. Triggering would register on the Richter scale. Well, of course you did. Because nobody cares. No, I came to you as a far more sound campus, partly because I wanted to celebrate the recount with you. Jill Stein's recount. It's sad, isn't it? They go through all of that name calling and safe space trigger warning crap and lying about people and all the media, academia, everybody, and they lose the election, and then suddenly, like a shaft of light in St. Peter's Basilica, down from the heavens comes the promise of hope in the form of Jill Stein. Opportunistic fuck. Who raises 2 million, no refunds, 2 million, like overnight, I wonder from whom, to do a recount that in every state, Trump's gone up, you know, and not even up by satisfying numbers, up by like 20 or 316, you know, like who gives a shit, you know, but no, you turned red, and congratulations, well done. And this in the face of much upheaval in your... Are we keeping you from something? Upheaval in your basketball program, for instance. They fired the coach this year after 11 seasons. which you might have imagined was thanks to poor performance, player academics, or clashing personality of the athletic director. But I am told that they've been thinking like Democrats. They think it's Russian hackers responsible for all the bad performance. No, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? So you lose the election, and you sort of, you kind of thrash around for a bit, and then you pick this guy that's been sort of selected as an advisor, and you call him a white supremacist and an anti-Semite, just desperately hoping that something, anything, will stick. And it doesn't. And they haven't learned anything. They haven't learned that the name calling doesn't work. They haven't learned anything from the election, just calling people racist and sexist and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't win them over. You need arguments. You need to persuade people, not bully them, and they haven't learned this. And so they go around looking for somebody to blame, whether it's Steve Bannon or whatever. And now they're coming for the conservative press. They're coming for good conservative press like Breitbart. They're coming for places no one's ever heard of, like the Daily Wire. They're coming for... Stop it. I should stop, shouldn't I? It's like shooting a corpse. It's like sort of kicking a dead dog. No, I'm sure the money will run out soon. But, well, the Wilkes brothers have got no reason to keep writing the checks now. I wonder whether they realize how insane they sound. The media, I'm saying to you. The idea that you could start calling everybody white supremacists, anti-Semites, and sexist and racist, and even though like half of women voted for Trump, it's still sexism. All this kind of stuff, and you look around for someone to blame, and you're like, I know. Why don't we say the whole election was like Russian hackers or something? The whole media has started to sound like InfoWars. And although I like Alex very much, I think he's wonderful, but it is amazing to sort of to hear CNN and MSNBC and all these other networks start to sound like InfoWars, and they don't realize they're burning the last vestiges of credibility. The last remaining slivers of credibility are completely going. Speaking of credibility, universities like to shred theirs by opening things like the Inclusive Excellence Center. You have an Inclusive Excellence Center, which you would imagine might mean something about, I don't know, somebody who's good at lots of subjects, who becomes valedictorian for, passing, triple majoring in something. No. The Inclusive Excellence Center. They always sound so fucking sinister, don't they? These left-wing Orwellian things. They sort of, you can imagine it sort of in a building next to the Ministry of Truth. And it would fit in, in ways that Orwell never imagined. Why? Because the purpose of the Inclusive Excellence Center is neither to include anyone nor be excellent at anything, but is instead to control the speech of students through hilarious efforts like the Just Words campaign. Have any of you fallen foul of the Just Words campaign? No, it is bullshit, you're right. Now, there are all sorts of words you're not supposed to say, and I'm going to be saying all of them in the course of this speech. All of them. This is a strategy designed to scare you, designed to make you fearful. It's like, these are the words you're not allowed to say on pain of being a hateful bigot who deserves to be, thrown off a cliff or murdered or something. These people don't learn. They don't learn. They've spent your money, your tuition fees, on a strategy designed to enforce politics through language, not realizing that it was precisely that. I mean, if they were clever, if they were smart, if they were paying attention, they would realize that it is entirely contrary to the human spirit to accept this sort of stuff. It is entirely contrary to human nature to allow your opinions, your thoughts, your aspirations, and your dreams, and your sense of humor to be shaped by people who want to allow you and disallow you various words. In fact, it produces a counter-revolution. It produces mischief and dissidence and subversion. It produces defiance. It produces Donald Trump. They did it. They created Daddy. And aren't we happy about it? They did it. I'll give you some examples from the Just Words campaign. Things you're not supposed to say. Right. Apparently, you can't say, "Are you deaf?" when someone doesn't hear you, because a deaf person might be offended. How? How would they know? I mean, I suppose in some bizarro parallel universe, they're kind of going around lip reading, looking to be offended by everyone. You know, some sort of orally challenged social justice warrior, just going around lip reading if anyone's saying, "Are you deaf?" and going, "Woo!" Oh, a bit too much for some of you. A bit too much for some of you. You see, I just did what Donald Trump has never done: make fun of the disabled. Donald Trump never did it. He never did it. He does this for all sorts of stupid people. You remember that reporter who had some kind of awful condition? The poor lamb. You know, but Donald Trump does this for all kinds of stupidity. There are sort of 6 or 7 or 10 different videos of him doing this, and of course, you know, they never mention that, even though they know it. They sort of try to pretend that he was making fun of disabled people. No, this is what making fun of disabled people looks like, and it's funny. So, maybe not very presidential, but it's funny. No, so look, ridiculous. How are they ever going to know? You're not supposed to say, "That's gay." Now, of course, they have correctly identified the one thing they get right, and this is something about progressives, you know, they get some right and then they sort of fail towards the end. They have correctly identified that the real meaning of gay is not sucks dick. The real meaning of gay is crap, rubbish, shit, lame, Hillary supporting, immigrant loving, Muslim pandering. That is the correct meaning of gay. When you say something like, "Oh my God, that's so fucking gay," what you mean is, it sucks. Now, they have correctly identified that bit. What they've failed to take into account, however, is that it is a really enjoyable way to tell people to go fuck themselves. And the more you tell people, look, I mean, I'm like an eternal 14-year-old. I'm basically 14. My whole life I will be 14 years old. But I am not unique in enjoying getting into trouble. I am not unique in enjoying mischief. I'm not unique in defying the powers that be. In fact, most young people have a little dash of this in them. And when you tell them you can't do something, they want to do it. It makes them want to do it. There was a campaign in the UK to ban the word gay from the playground. And I was invited on TV with some thick as pig shit pop star to debate this. Will Young, you probably never heard of him. He's sort of our Rufus Wainwright, just as thick and totally devoid of talent, but popular because he smiles nicely. There was this campaign to rid the playground of the word gay. And I said, which I thought was perfectly reasonable, can you imagine if you were in the playground and your teacher said, "Don't say gay"? What would you say for the next 4 years? You're like, "Gay, gay, gay." That might actually it might actually cause a young gay person to feel uncomfortable when the whole school's saying it, and the whole school's saying it because they were told they can't. This is one of the many ways in progressives simply don't understand human nature at all. They don't get it. Of course, you can't say, according to the Just Words campaign, "illegal alien." You can't say in many places in America, "illegal alien." Because it might suggest, it might admit that America has a problem with illegals. They want to call it something, they want to call it undocumented immigration, like it's a clerical error, rather than a deliberate strategy by the Democrats to fuck the Republicans, rather than a deliberate plan to import millions of new voters, throw them on welfare, and thereby guarantee themselves the presidency for generations. Like it's not a deliberate effort to radically reshape what America looks like and how America votes. And they want you to call it undocumented immigration, like it's a fucking mistake with a paperclip. I think America knows better, and America voted accordingly at the last election to demonstrate that. I have gone through the interminable visa process to come into this country. You know, it's interesting. America is sort of seen as this great land of sort of freedom and the free market and all the rest of it. The one bit of America that is really, really fucking terrible, and I now finally understand, after having gone through the process of getting a visa to be here, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it while the application was still pending, because, you know, public employees can be so vindictive and bitter. I never understood just how shit your government is. Just how utterly useless the federal government is at absolutely everything. Everything. There are bits of it that work well. There are bits of it that you could be hugely proud of and grateful for. For instance, law enforcement. And we're going to get on to, in a minute, why you should be so grateful for the police and all of the great bravery that, you know, and acts of valor that they conduct on a daily basis whilst being slandered routinely, lied to and lied about all the time by the media. There are bits of it that work okay, and individuals who work really, really well. But has anyone in here ever been to the DMV? Has anyone in here ever been to the Social Security office? I mean, there's a reason Europeans are more relaxed with big government, because ours actually fucking works. Awful. Awful. I feel very sorry for you, and I hope that Donald Trump takes a scythe to large branches of the American government. I want to close the Department of Education and basically just shut most of the rest of it down. Sitting in that Social Security office, I felt like I needed a safe word, you know? It was that bad. My safe word is women can be funny. No, they can. I mean, I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure there is one. One of the words you shouldn't use, according to Just Words, is Nazi. You're not supposed to call people a Nazi, which is weird, because... Of course, as always, with progressive social justice warriors, feminists, Black Lives Matter, and all of their friends, it is one rule for the people in this room and one rule for everybody else. One final word I have to mention from Just Words, and it is man up. They don't like it when you say man up. Enforcing, what is it they call it? Heteropatriarchal notions of toxic masculinity. Fuck off! God, man up's a big no-no for liberals. They're intent on eliminating masculinity from culture. Toxic masculinity and rape culture are some other idiotic things they like to say in their war against men. Well, I'll tell you one UW-Milwaukee student that does not need to man up. And that is Justine Kramer. Do you know about Justine Kramer? Have any of you come into contact with this person? There's a quote-unquote non-binary trans... You're not laughing now, are you? You already know him. Quote-unquote non-binary trans woman forced his way into the women's locker rooms this year. Who knows about this story? Any of you? I see you don't even read your own student media. He got into the women's room the way liberals always operate, using the government and the courts to weasel their way where they don't belong. In this case, he made a Title IX complaint. Title IX is a set of rules to protect women on campus effectively. It's couched in the language of equality, but it's really about women, which under normal circumstances would be fine, except for how it's implemented. Now, it is used to put men into women's bathrooms. I have known some passing trannies in my life. Trannies, you're not allowed to say that either. I've known some passing trannies in my life, which is to say transgender people who pass as the gender they would like to be considered. Well, no. The way you know that he's failing is I'd almost still bang him. It's just a man in a dress, isn't it? I should reapply my lipstick, sorry. Tonight I'm here to talk, however, not about any individual students because it's mean. Or about the words you are and are not allowed to say, or any of the other various wonderful things that I was going to say about Wisconsin. I'm here to talk about a more serious subject. I'm here to talk about race. And specifically, a small, powerful group of people in the sort of elite progressive media, academia, and in public life generally, who have a vested interest, thanks to their own, or in order to, they have a vested interest in order to engorge themselves, not just on public money, but on the new corporate diversity budgets. For political and for financial enrichment, these people are invested in precipitating and continuing the race war in this country. And these people have incentives to do so, and their money and their fame and their power. I'm going to talk a little bit about who those people have been in American history and who they are today now, and suggest to you at the end that the concept that underpins all of this garbage, designed to make you afraid, white privilege, simply doesn't exist. I'll give you a few reasons why I think that's the case. Somebody needs a Xanax at the back. This is a wonderful thing about America. I've come to America, you've got this smorgasbord, this alphabet of leisure drugs. I mean, prescription medication. Wonderful things you have that we can't get hold of. I mean, you know, everything's so tightly regulated in Europe. It's the one good thing about America is it's still relatively free. You know, we can't get melatonin You know, if you can't sleep very well, we can't get melatonin in the UK. You have to go to a doctor and get drugged off your face so that you won't wake up for days. You know, it's so ridiculous. We have wonderful things in this country. It's marvelous. Anyway, we'll get you some of them. Right. Race relations between white people and black people in this country are sort of held to be America's original sin. You just had a black president for 8 years, and he's now saying America hasn't overcome its legacy of racism. And he's right. What he doesn't tell you is that he's part of the reason why. What more could America do? Elect Obama God? In his view, that's probably the only last remaining step, that or deification. The appalling legacy in the US derives from a hideous sin. The worst thing that a person can do to another person. It's enslavement. It's the theft of freedom and of agency, the removal from somebody of their ability to flourish, to be, say, and do whatever they want, under the threat of violence, starvation, oppression, rape. It's about the worst thing you can do to another person. But here's the thing. Lots of places in the world have had it. Lots of places in the world still have it. But it is only in America that it has been allowed to grow into something that still poisons every aspect of public life. I'm going to suggest to you this evening the reason for that is that it is only in America that the progressive left, so-called progressive left, has such a stranglehold on academia, the media, and the entertainment industry. And it is only in America that grievance and victimhood have become a sort of currency. It's only in America that people can acquire money and power through playing the victim. Now, this culture is, of course, spreading elsewhere now, too. There's a guy in Oxford University, a Rhodes Scholar, who wants to tear down the statue of Cecil Rhodes because Cecil Rhodes was a bad guy at some point in history according to today's moral standards. Never mind the fact that Cecil Rhodes was responsible for the scholarship that got that black kid into Oxford in the first place. Logic is not something that progressives spend a lot of time worrying about. It's only in America that this is something that all of you, are expected to feel bad about. It's only in America, which is not a Catholic country, where you are expected to well, it's a sort of original sin, as I say. If you're a Catholic, you understand the concept of original sin. You know, we all inherit the sins of Adam. We ate the apple, listened to the serpent, and we all suffer as a result. Well, there's something of the same happening with progressive politics. You are being held personally and individually liable for things you did not do. You are held personally and individually liable for the actions of not even necessarily your ancestors, just other people who look like you. And you're expected to subject yourself to a variety of humiliations and, in most extreme forms of the argument, financial penalties for things you did not do. In many cases, on the basis of dodgy research, statistics that do not stand up to scrutiny, and a sort of victimhood and grievance culture which is holding back the very people who are telling you to feel bad, that makes them suffer the most. Every corner of the globe has experienced slavery. Many black Americans are descended from slaveholders in Africa, or especially if they are descendants of Egypt, as many claim. They come from a culture that had slaves just like everybody else, or indentured servants, or whatever they called it in a particular culture. Of the slaves brought to the New World, the vast majority went to Central and South America. They didn't come up here. America and England are different because America and England realized, in historical terms, relatively quickly, if you consider the empires of Egypt or whatever, in broad historical terms, relatively quickly, Europe and America realized this was deeply, deeply wrong. And they put a stop to it. And for that realization, they have been punished over and over and over again by their own progressive cultures. American slavery was ended by a bloody civil war. And some of you may be descendants of Wisconsin men that fought to free the slaves. Some of you in this room probably are. It's hard for liberal students to understand the concept of a civil war. It's a bit like sort of aggressive liking and retweeting without permission, but with guns. Many of you have... See, I wasn't going to be serious for the whole talk, don't worry. We're going to pull it back, don't worry. Many of you have a better grasp on the Civil War than that, but you are college students, so I'm not going to take anything for granted. I'll assume it hasn't been covered in the same excruciating detail as microaggressions and manspreading. The only kind of slavery that you're likely to hear about, wherever you are educated, whatever course you are doing, is the American kind that ended in the 1860s. According to the UN, though, there are 30 million people in slavery today still. 14 million of them are in India. 4% of the population of Mauritania are slaves. No one takes the time to find out where Mauritania is, of course, let alone try to end slavery there. Progressives don't care too much about things that don't make white people feel bad. So never mind that Africa, the home of slavery, is still practicing it. And that might, if you really cared, this isn't an excuse for anything that happened in America, but it's an interesting observation. If you really cared about human fulfillment and dignity, if you really cared about ending slavery, wouldn't you be talking about that? Well, no, because that's too awkward and difficult. It's not a simple, clear-cut case of black people good, white people bad. So they don't do it. Why isn't the American left fighting slavery today on a global scale? Why is it still revisiting the sins of the past? Well, I won't say anything about modern slavery involving child sex trafficking, which is pizza for another day. I'm still not allowed to do that one. I know they did it. No, well, it's so easy to believe. It's so easy to believe, isn't it? Okay, all right, but just internet conspiracy theories. Don't get me started, because I believe them all. The real reason that slavery in America is used, the real reason that slavery keeps being brought up, is because it can be used as political weaponry to control the direction of elections in this country and to continue to drive a wedge between people. For the political and financial advantage of a very small number of liberal pundits, politicians, charity losers, and various other progressive elites, keeping the race business alive is incredibly important. And in order to do that, they are happy to make black people suffer. They're happy to tell lies about the relationships between black communities and the police. They're happy to overlook far more significant statistics than those about tragedies, or however you want to characterize it, between white cops and black youths. In the rare case that there isn't a significant degree of ambiguity about what happened in the first place. They're happy to ignore things that would help black communities. Better schools, proper law enforcement, also better housing, all kinds of things that build stable families, stable, sustainable communities that are able to get the poorest, smartest kids to Harvard. They won't focus on any of those things. And the reason is that they don't actually care. They don't care about black people. Because if they did, they would act totally differently. If they did, they wouldn't talk about any of the things they talk about, and they would talk about all the things they don't talk about. But it's very obvious from what they advocate for, what they fight for, that they don't care about black people. Well, they don't, yes. Consider... Oh, I see. Oh, it's you. You've taken an awful... Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. Can I have my cookies? They're here somewhere. Is this really the best protest you could muster? All 6 of you. You'll notice it took them an enormously long time to pipe up because nothing I was saying was remotely objectionable until I addressed them and said they don't care about black people, exposing them. Until I drew attention to their hypocrisy, they had fuck all to say. Nothing to say. They didn't dare stand up while the oh, here we go. Let me know when you're done. Oh, it's sad, isn't it? It's the best they can muster. Good head. You notice when they piped up, right? You notice when they start speaking, when I say, you see, they would say all different things. They would talk about different things. If they actually cared about black people, and it's, oh shit, we got to stop it. We got to stop it. We got to shut it down. Shut it down. They know. Let's continue, shall we? That's pathetic. Good heavens. All right. If a white person today were to give Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and said his line, I look to a day when people will be judged not by the color of their skin but by the content of their character, they'd face charges of hate speech from liberals, too ignorant of history to know that it's even Martin Luther King's line. All Lives Matter has been branded irresponsible and insensitive by mainstream television networks. Well, Dr. King's dream ended when he was killed, yes, by a white racist. But black leadership swung after that. Another reason that racism is terrible and disgusting, and nobody in this room likes it or likes racists. Newsflash, idiots. One of the reasons... One of the reasons to be particularly irritated, if not horrified and disgusted, as I'm sure most of us will be, with any kind of racism, but in this particular case with the white racist who killed Martin Luther King, is what happened to the black community afterwards. The locus, the center of gravity in the civil rights struggle moved away from equality, reason, truth, ideas, and towards what would become identity politics of Malcolm X. The center of gravity for the civil rights movement shifted away from peaceful negotiation and advocacy of the sort that we all admire. There isn't probably a single person in this room who doesn't admire the words and deeds of Martin Luther King. Toward militancy, black supremacy, and counterproductive, self-destructive behaviors of all kinds. It was a sad premonition for the future of black America that Malcolm X was killed by a black man. Because if we fast forward 5 decades, we've not seen any improvement in many areas in the black community. In fact, quite the opposite. Many black Americans are immeasurably worse off than they were even a few generations ago. I think a change is in order, and a quick tour of the rogues gallery of the sorts of people who have led us up to this point, I think, will provide through white relief, white space, as it were, around the edges, will provide implicitly, I think, a roadmap ahead, a suggestion for how we fix this. I want to call this rogues gallery the basket of deplorables. Unfortunately, that phrase has been taken. So I'm calling it the Rogues Gallery. Now, unlike Hillary, who painted millions of Americans with a broad brush, I'm taking specific aim at a couple of community leaders who have hurt black America more than they've helped it. I'm keeping this list to a small selection of the actual Rogues Gallery because we have to be out of here sometime before the end of December 2019. We could spend all day listing leaders who've hurt black people in this country in exchange for power or quick profit, but let's just do a couple of them, and let's start with Lyndon Baines Johnson. LBJ became president when Kennedy was murdered. His presidency spelt the beginning of really tough times for black America, a return to things that had not been... Well, it was a reverse of course from the improvements made after slavery to another decline. In the short term, he escalated the Vietnam War, which cost the lives of soldiers of all backgrounds, including blacks. But in the long term, he created what we call the Great Society, which left him with a legacy as a civil rights champion, but that legacy is undeserved. The Great Society created a permanent welfare state in this country, and it installed black people as an underclass, dependent on the state, replacing the father, replacing local community leaders with the dead hand of government. LBJ created a world for black people where the Democrat Party was their only choice. Now, Herman Cain likes to call the Democrat Party the plantation. He likes to say that voting Republican is like leaving the plantation. I put it to you, LBJ was a racist. I'll leave it up to you to Google some of the choice things that he said about black people. Then ask yourself whether this president, who said and did things about black people we should all, and we, I'm sure, do all, find utterly unconscionable today, how he compares to some of the people that the progressive left calls racist today. Next up, one of the worst offenders in the history of race relations is Jesse Jackson. He's an example of the new breed of civil rights leader that came up after Martin Luther King was killed. People interested in personal power and the accumulation of personal wealth at the expense of the people they supposedly dedicated their life to. Jackson invented things that you will find commonplace right now, like black leaders magically appearing when a black person is killed by the police, but disappearing when black people kill each other. Many of your parents could tell you about Jackson's most infamous incident, calling New York City Hymie-town because of its large Jewish population. He doesn't like the Jews very much. He's a bit like Richard Spencer with a tan. Throughout his career as a black leader, Jesse Jackson has... You see, these are just words wouldn't like that very much. Throughout his career as a black leader, Jesse Jackson has enriched himself at the expense of other black people. He has an estimated net worth of $10 million. And his Rainbow Push Coalition sounds, well, just like the Clinton Foundation. Friends and family do well out of it, but nobody else does. Jackson once spearheaded a boycott of Budweiser beer, claiming, who even knows. Years later, two of his sons got a deal with Budweiser for a distributorship in Chicago. Guess who never said a peep about Budweiser ever again? Jackson cares about himself, not about black people. He famously said about President Obama he wanted to cut his nuts off, which is about the only thing he ever did right. Jackson pioneered, though, the opportunism. It's a specific kind of ugly, evil, sociopathic opportunism that doesn't care what happens to real people, provided that money and power is accumulated for a few at the top. And it was the sort of opportunism that we see from today's black leaders. Turns out race relations is a business, and business is booming, thanks to its creation by Jesse Jackson. The Clintons. Now, it mystified, no, you know, it's a bit like queers for Palestine, you know, gays for Hillary, blacks for Hillary. Sometimes it is a mystery that only the good Lord will be able to reveal to us all when we have passed from this mortal coil, ascended to the heavens, why some of these groups continuously vote against their own interests. Why gay people will vote for a woman who takes hundreds of millions of dollars from countries that execute gays, provided she's got a rainbow Twitter avatar at home. Mystifying. Equally as baffling to me is why black people keep voting for the fucking Clintons. Just because Bill can play the saxophone. Give me a break. It's true. It's true. And not very well, I hasten to add. Not very well. The Clintons are no friends to black America, despite blacks voting for Bill and Hillary in overwhelming numbers. Bill Clinton was once called the first black president, even. I think the first black president is going to be Donald Trump, actually, in many significant ways, given that Obama has done absolutely nothing for the black community. Bill Clinton moved it significantly backwards, and Donald Trump, merely by virtue of not being a racist, is probably going to be the best president for blacks that we've had in quite some time in this country. Bill Clinton's crime bill was about the worst thing that ever happened post-slavery to America's black communities. It put hundreds of thousands of black dads in prison and consigned black America to state and to welfare dependency, taking all those dads out of family units, ripping them away and replacing the dads with the state, was about the most destructive and awful thing that you could do to any community. I mean, it's obviously going to be the most destructive and damaging thing you could possibly do. It is wrapped up part of the insane, ludicrous war on drugs that both sides in this country, Democrats and Republicans, are obsessed with. When pundits ask where all the black dads are, they should be asking the Clintons for the answer. And the answer is they're in jail, thanks to the Clintons. We can't have this pair in the Rogues Gallery without recalling Hillary's famous quotes about the 1994 crime bill. Remember this one? They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. Like a dog, I think she means. And I also know what she means by super predators, and so does everybody else. Oh. Indeed. Well, she would know a little something about being brought to heel, for instance, by her Middle Eastern funders and radical terror groups. Of course, we know that the Clintons have profited to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. Quite a bit of money from the Clinton Foundation was supposed to end up in Haiti. It didn't. That country is a mess, largely because, as Peter Schweizer's excellent Clinton Cash book, movie, and graphic novel, available on Amazon. You should read them, they're very good. Explains to you the rest of the sort of global community, useless idiots of the UN, and various other globalist, elitist losers and committee members of various useless bodies that you pay for. They sort of left Haiti to the Clintons. It was like, well, Hillary seems to have it under control. The Clinton, kind of, they're looking after Haiti. Bill was sent down there. Well, when the Clintons just gave contracts to their friends for stuff that never really arrived and never happened, and then didn't do very much else, and the country remained as it remains today, a total shit show. You have to ask how much these people really cared about helping the country that they were entrusted with rescuing after that great disaster, and how much their priorities were really paying back favors to friends that owned mobile phone companies and construction businesses. Clintons represent 3 decades of the Democrat Party getting it totally, totally wrong on race and smugly collecting the black vote while doing nothing for the black community in return. Democrats don't understand what is wrong in the black community or how to fix it, and if they do, they just don't care. And here is a man who really doesn't care. Here is a man who cares perhaps the least. Al Sharpton has a long history of leading black people by inciting division. He is gross. There's a wonderful word. I never knew it before I came to America, but it says, no, it's just gross. It's lovely. It's lovely. It's just sort of it's just such a sort of lovely casual diss, you know. It's kind of like there's a little bit of vomit in there. There's a little bit of it's lovely. It's one of my favorite. What? Lena Dunham is gross. She is. Lena Dunham is gross. America's leading stand-up comedian Amy Schumer is gross. You know, I offered to buy Lena Dunham a first-class plane ticket to Toronto, as she promised. She promised she was going to go. I got my assistant in touch with her management. And we know, because we've got mail track, we know they opened the email like 11 times. It was being forwarded around Lena Dunham's management. Did they respond? No. She just called us disgusting on Instagram for daring to have taken her seriously. There's sort of implicit racism, isn't there, in these liberals who say they're going to move out of the country if Trump wins. And they always choose the whitest imaginable countries. Like countries that are you know, way whiter than America. You're going to move to Canada. Why not Mexico City? Why not Raqqa? Well, why not Cuba? True. Although Saudi Arabia I have a soft spot for. You know, occasionally it's possible to... Saudi Arabia I have a soft spot for because they've sort of stumbled upon various things that, you know, for the wrong reasons they've arrived at the right conclusions, like no female drivers. The road traffic statistics must be the envy of the world. No, it's interesting. It's interesting. And even Snoop Dogg, who said he was going to move to Africa if Trump won, chose South Africa. Of course he did. It's the country with the white people in it. Fucking frauds. These people are odious fucks. All right, Pumpkin, let's go. Up you get. Now stand up and speak loudly. I'll try to get you a microphone. Where are you, Angel? Stand up. There you go, sweetheart. Yeah. Now, if you... I'm going to repeat what you say, so go ahead.
So, you claim to be this great defender of black people.
Especially in the bedroom.
Thank you. You claim to be this defender of black people, right?
Yes.
You claim to abhor racism in all its forms. Your whole talk, right, this whole discussion is about how liberals are the real racists, right? Isn't this true?
Do you have a question?
However, yes. What I want to know is how do you...
Shh, let him speak. He can embarrass himself without your help.
How do you claim to be the anti-racist, the one who's calling out all the racists?
Yes, get to the question, sweetheart.
Just be patient. I'll get there. Okay? When you're the one who incited your followers on Twitter to attack Leslie Jones, the star of Ghostbusters.
Excuse me. Poor Leslie.
With a storm of racist tweets.
Okay, I think I understand.
Her to a gorilla.
I think I understand the broad thrust of your question. My turn.
How can you justify all this defense of black America and claim to be the savior of black folks when there is not a single black person in this audience? You're in the largest... Oh, there's one! Oh, there's one! You found one black person in a city that's has the largest black population in the state to come to your talk. So why aren't there more black people here if you're such a defender of black America?
All right, we have two.
Explain why you were banned from Twitter.
We have two questions in there. We're going to address both of them for you. Thank you very much for your question. Thank you for listening to him relatively respectfully. Why don't you sit down, Poppet, and I'm happy to address both things. Stop it. Stop it. Alluding to me as some kind of viper about to strike. I'm going to be lovely. I'm going to be very nice. First of all, stop believing what you read in the press. What I did... you should have picked this up by now from whatever terrible blog you read, whether it's Vox or Mike or BuzzFeed or God, not Gawker anymore, thank God. Sorry about that. You should have picked up by now the media doesn't always get everything right. For instance, the last election. And indeed, in this case, they got lots of other things. Now, you see, I'm answering your question, but you need to listen. I as most of this audience will know, I wrote a very waspish review of the new Ghostbusters movie, which is total fucking garbage. And I said so. And if our friend down here had read the review, he might have known, for instance, that in the course of... You need to calm down, and you need to let me finish. If he had taken the time to read the review, which of course he has not, he would have known that in the course of that review, actually, I mounted a defense of Leslie Jones. What I said was, I found it quite disturbing that she was expected to play what amounts to a sort of minstrel show. You know, this kind of, like black girl attitude that I found to be a little bit out of date. I mean, we had that stuff in the 90s, and it was a little bit cringe then. 2016. I mean, she's a black woman in a Hollywood blockbuster. Does she really still need to play that same stereotypical black character? Couldn't she have been a bit more well-rounded? Or couldn't she have just been normal, you know, and just happen to have black skin? That's what that review said. You don't know that because you didn't fucking read it. But what I said, what I later went on to do, what I later went on to do, darling, you have to listen to the answers. You have to listen to the answers. What I later went on to do when I tweeted the review was make some jokes at her expense, because she isn't a particularly attractive woman. I'm entitled to say so. She's a celebrity. I said it was nice they put a hot black dude in the movie. I also... The joke, of course, being really at my own expense, talking about my sex life. I also said that she was playing the victim, which of course she was. There's a reason that Leslie Jones went out complaining about her, the mean words she was getting on the internet, because the movie was tanking. Do you believe for a second that a prominent Hollywood actress sits at home crying on their iPhone, surrounded by guilt and marble and millions of dollars because somebody said mean things on the internet? I don't believe that any more than you do. But she was deployed to complain about bad words on the internet. Now, it is true that following the publication of my article, some people, a small contingent on the internet, said things to her which I found utterly disgusting. And I have told every interviewer who ever cared to ask, which is not many of them because they're not interested in the truth, they're interested in identifying racists and ejecting them from polite society. I've told every... You have to listen, sweetheart. I'm actually indulging you. I am indulging you. I am indulging you with a far more detailed answer than you deserve. So you should listen. Now, most people aren't interested in what actually happens, and Twitter had been trying to get rid of me for a very long time. Now, in America, identity politics, which has sort of superseded reason, logic, and the truth as the guiding principle behind public life, takes root not just in the media, but also in social media companies in Silicon Valley. They hated Trump with a vengeance. They hated Trump even more than the media did. And Twitter took the opportunity to get rid of me, claiming that I was inciting targeted harassment of somebody. This is a charge I deny. This is a charge I refute utterly. I am not responsible for what hundreds of thousands of people on the internet tweet. I am responsible for what I tweet. Would the same people who claim that I was responsible for inciting harassment of Leslie Jones, as though she gives a shit what I or some random avatars on Twitter have to say about her, would the people complaining about that hold Justin Bieber accountable for the death threats sent to Selena Gomez? Would these people hold Beyoncé responsible for the death threats that her fans sent to Taylor Swift? Would these people hold any other person in public life responsible for the actions of their fans? Or is it more likely that there's a double standard at play when it comes to libertarians and conservatives that means that no matter what you do or what you say or how... Could it be that there is in fact a double standard at play, and that they will, on the basis of no evidence whatsoever, and nobody could ever produce anything, ever, in the history of my journalistic career, and let me tell you they tried, could never produce a statement that could plausibly be described as racist. And most of the reports didn't even include the tweets that got me banned, the jokes at her expense, because they were so funny that the journalists realized it undermined their case. So... I'm not able to hear you because you're yelling again, but... So that's the answer to the first... Oh, dear. Are you joking? I don't think I'm a victim. It's the best thing that ever fucking happened to me. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't take my Twitter account back if they begged me. Are you kidding? Never been so grateful to be censored. Not that I like it when they do it to other people, because I can take it. Well, I'm sorry for being popular. I can take it as... You know what, never mind. But many private citizens can't. And the reason I made a fuss about it wasn't for my own sake. I don't give a shit. I am 10 times better known than I was before I lost that Twitter account. They did me an enormous professional favor in banning me from Twitter. The reason I care about it is not for me or for Azealia Banks, who I love, who said appalling things about people for years, but was only banned 2 weeks after she, guess what, endorsed Trump. Not for Charles Johnson's sake, who was also banned for no good reason. Chuck Johnson, the founder of Got News, now he tweeted that he was raising money to take out DeRay Mackison, who we're going to get to in a minute, one of the Black Lives Matter leaders. It was very clear, totally clear, this guy's a journalist, and take out meant publish a piece of journalism that would damage his reputation. Nobody, absolutely nobody, with more than 2 brain cells to rub together could possibly ever have believed that a 5'10" ginger bespectacled journalist was raising money to assassinate a Black Lives Matter leader. Nobody believes that. Absolutely no one. But they claimed that it was some sort of death threat. What's going on here? Double standards and inconsistent enforcement of rules if you have the wrong politics. And every conservative and every libertarian will come across this on social media. And I cared about the Leslie Jones case not for my own sake, because I knew the moment it happened, it would be a huge career boon for me. I'd have things to talk about in the media for months, you know? Well, I was running out of stuff to talk about for a while. No, I wasn't, but, you know. But rather, because this happens on a daily basis to people like you, and nobody is going to write columns about it when it happens. All you will discover is that you lose your Twitter account. You lose your voice. You lose your ability to express yourself. You lose your ability to express perfectly respectable, reasonable, mainstream opinions that should be inoffensive to the majority of America, and you lose your ability to share your points of view with others because you have the wrong politics. And it's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to all of you. It's already happening on Twitter. I mean, there's now a concerted campaign on Twitter to get Donald Trump banned, you know. And the media is kind of complicit with this. And Twitter has a long history of rolling over when it gets too much bad press from the left. It might happen. The network will go, the Twitter will die even faster if they do it. Imagine it, banning the president. But it might happen. And this tells you something about the stupidity and lunacy of Twitter and why that happened. Let's move on, shall we? I think... Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there. But I'm starting with the black people. All right, we've done that. What's that? You can't hear me. I might... All right. Enough. I'm going to get to the end, and then we will do questions, okay? All right. Now, Al Sharpton makes a reported $500,000 a year to be on MSNBC, has a net worth estimated at $5 million. This is a man with no discernible talents or skills whatsoever. Dividing, it turns out, dividing black people and white people into groups and setting them against one another, as we have already learned, as is almost nowhere better exemplified than in the case of Al Sharpton, is great business. Sharpton owed nearly that much once to the government, by the way, in taxes. It seems to me the only people he should be protesting are the IRS. Al Sharpton is all about the money. His career as a leader for black people can be summed up by the advertisement he made in 2005 for LoanMax, a title loan company. And guess what kind of people are more likely to take those kind of loans out? Loans that can charge up to 300% in annual interest. Any guesses what kind of communities LoanMax targets? Minority groups, yes. But Al didn't care because he got a nice check out of it. Black Lives Matter. It's the culmination of this racial divide, and DeRay Mackison is its spokesman. We're not supposed to say it. You're not supposed to say it. We're supposed to say, my lawyers have told me to phrase it like this: he is extraordinarily chummy with Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter. Extraordinarily chummy is my British euphemism. Well, that's what I hear. That's what they say. Black Lives Matter is nothing more than the last socially acceptable hate group in America. Every other hate group in America is widely condemned. They're the only group dedicated to division, segregation, and racial hatred. But it's okay to praise them at a Manhattan. It's okay to praise them at a Manhattan dinner party or a DC. You need to wait until the Q&A, or we're going to have you taken out, sir. We've had enough interruptions now, and you need to be courteous and respectful of everybody else in the room, or you will be taken out. Oh, sorry. No, wait. I'm not supposed to say that. God damn it. The only person at risk at one of my talks is me, let me tell you. They march on the streets calling for the deaths of white police officers, receive praise in gushing essays in the press the following morning. They've taken the opportunism of their predecessors, and they have added the worst identity politics of feminism, Marxism, and every other awful campus-driven ism you can think of. The leadership of Black Lives Matter is, of course, loose and evasive, especially if you're asking where the donations went to. There's Janetta Elzy, who is Netta on Twitter. Netta should shut up. I haven't got her because she didn't fit on the slide. It's too easy, really. Too easy. And then there is DeRay Mackison, remarkably chummy, underlined 3 times. DeRay Mackison doesn't represent Black Lives Matter. See, isn't it amazing how they have these dodges and evasions? It's like feminists who will tweet, kill all white men, I bathe in male tears, masculinity so fragile. And then when you call them out, they'll say, feminism's about equality, don't you believe in equality? We judge people by how they behave, not what they... Oh, God. You see, people would have a great deal more sympathy and patience for you if you treated them with the same courtesy and respect that they treat you with. Pipe the fuck down. I don't know who wrote this rule book that says that if you have the right kind of politics, you're allowed to interrupt speakers and make other people's lives miserable, but it is not a rule book I follow. You will obey the rules of this, you will be respectful, you will be courteous, you will be polite, or you will leave. Black Lives Matter is, for more free speech. There's a reason I have a Q&A where I invite you to ask me whatever questions you want. You are also, as you have seen, I can deal with a certain degree of interruption. And normally I deal with interruption in a highly indulgent manner, far more indulgent than any other speaker you will come to listen to. I'm more often than not, if somebody interrupts me, I'm likely to hear them out. More often than not, I'm likely to hear them out, but I've had enough now, and so has everybody else. Enough. What is it that I'm dishing out that I can't take? I've allowed you to be disruptive for about 25 minutes now. Let me break something to you. You and I are not equal. There's a reason I'm on the stage and you're not. You get to listen. We may be equal in human dignity, but we are not equal in status this evening. And you will sit down and listen and ask your question nicely at the end, or you can go. It's very simple. Very straightforward. I probably answer more questions in the Q&As than any other speaker that you will hear on campus of any political persuasion. I allow more interruptions, I allow more bad behavior than any other speaker on campus, but I have my limits and I have reached them. Black lives, and we're going to get through this whether you like it or not. I mean, I don't know whether the purpose of the interruption is to derail the talk, but we will finish this whether you like it or not. And you're not going... I mean... If you want to be disruptive and throw your toys out the pram, go burn another town of your own. Don't come to my talks. All right, go loot something, I don't know. Black Lives Matter is the ultimate divisive movement. They are not shy about what they don't like, which is Western civilization, capitalism, and the rule of law. They really dislike the police, and certainly get the credit for the war between black men and the police these days. You've experienced this right here. You've experienced this right here in Milwaukee, of course. Rioting Milwaukee citizens, actively looking for white targets, as they were perfectly happy to tell people. They were captured on Periscope, captured on YouTube. You wouldn't have seen it on CNN, of course. What has Oh, you see, the moment you tell them they're not allowed to be disruptive and rude, they leave. Judging by the look of him, this means he wants to be fisted. It's remarkable, isn't it? Sort of, I suggest to them they might like to behave as politely as everybody else, and it makes them more disruptive. They interrupt more, and then they leave when they realize they're not going to derail the talk and nobody gives a shit, and they can go and wail to themselves at the back for the rest of the night if they want to, and I will continue regardless. Like, poor little lamb. He wasn't loved enough as a child. No, I feel sorry for them. They're so badly educated. It's your professors that do it, you know. Pandering to this garbage. All right. What has Black Lives Matter actually accomplished? Well, I suggest to you that, and some of my fellow conservatives don't like me saying this very much, but I think that there is a legacy from slavery that requires a response. Now, I'm not saying that I sign up to the full reparations agenda. I think it's ludicrous to punish people for other people's sins. But there are clearly things that black communities need. Infrastructure, schools, housing, stuff they don't have, stuff that is worse there than anywhere else. And I would be completely in support of disproportionately large spending on those areas. But it's spending that will help this community revive itself, so that the poorest, smartest black kid can go to Harvard. That's the kind of... That's the kind of thing that might actually help. The problem for Democrats is it removes the victimhood and grievance culture, and that kid might not need welfare anymore. So it takes away a voter. It also offers up the promise of regeneration, of renewal, of aspiration, of the achievement of the American dream for a community that the Democrats are quite happy to keep as they are, so that they keep voting left. What's Black Lives Matter done to fix this situation? Well, all that Black Lives Matter has accomplished is further alienating the races from one another and leaving black cities in ruins. Nothing else. Black Lives Matter has achieved nothing else, and has moved race relations several decades backwards. That's it. And people like Dre Mackison are responsible for that. Sheriff David Clark, who is one of the best lawmen in the country, says it best. This is a room full of libertarians and Republicans applauding a black policeman. Somehow you're still racist. honestly. Black Lives Matter, he says, has no more to do with black issues than Students for a Democratic Society had to do with democracy. They are a means to an end, and they use the black population as sacrifices for their goals. When black celebrities like Beyonce jump on board, I can only wonder what their goals are. More ticket sales? An easy pass from the liberals who control their contracts? It is certainly not to help their community. Sheriff Clark goes so far as to call it a war with BLM as the enemy. Sheriff Clark is a serious guy, and when he speaks, in my view, America should listen. And if there is any question who isn't listening to Sheriff Clark, here is a picture. Well, no, actually, you know what? I'm not going to call any more of the students here. But it's safe to say that the students at this school are not listening. They support BLM, which is the stunning and brave thing for university colleges to do, but it doesn't help blacks. Saved a very special friend for last, one of my favorite white people, Sean King. Sean King is the whitest black supremacist in America, and he was booted out of Black Lives Matter, excised from the movement sometime after my reporting. Now, the best way to know Sean King is white, do you know how you know for sure that he's white? Is that his response to my reporting, because we have his birth certificate, we know who his parents are, his response was, oh, my mum was a whore, and I don't know who my dad is. No black kid would dare, can you even imagine it? If any of you have black friends, you'll know what I mean. This guy, who went through his entire life taking advantages from black people while masquerading as biracial, taking a place at Morehouse College, a historically black college, accepting an Oprah Winfrey scholarship, which wasn't specifically for black kids, but had never been awarded to a white kid before. And then turning himself into a leader of the modern sort of civil rights Black Lives Matter movement, taking a ludicrously well-paid position most recently at the New York Daily News. He's as shady as they come. He's the ultimate Black Lives Matter opportunist. He's engaged in so much strange behavior over the last year, I'm not going to waste your time cataloging it all, except to give you a few examples. He sent me this bizarre email once, claiming that the NRA is a white supremacist organization, which must have come as a shock to Sheriff Clark, who both frequently works with the NRA and is an actual black person. He also once suggested that the game of pool is racially charged. In the game of pool, you're playing cards, maybe because the white cue ball hits the colored ones, I don't know. But my joke, not his. I don't know. These people are insane. As if all that wasn't enough, he also looks eerily similar to Manny Escuela from Grand Theft Auto 4, which is reason. Manny also feigns a desire to help the inner-city community, all while trying to achieve his own social status and achieve fame. Maybe they know something we don't. Now, we will revisit Sean King when I wrap up in a moment, but this rogues gallery wouldn't be complete without one last gringo. And it's returning to something we spoke about earlier. What was that? Stop it. I had a little, because, living on a bus is very difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, I could be at home, draped in silk, sipping champagne with a Nigerian harem. But I'm not. I live in a coffin on the highway, and I do it for you, on the freeway. I do it for you. And I don't get very much sleep, and I have little blonde moments from time to time. And so I saw this, and I was like, oh, Sally Cohn. No, wait, sorry. The other lesbian. They are dangerous dykes. They are. No, but look. These... God. Why do lesbians turn themselves into that? I mean, wouldn't you just fuck a man? You've seen that video, by the way. It was very mean of me, but I have spies everywhere. And I had a friend who was a barman in Los Angeles at Katy Perry's birthday party, and he sent me a video of Sally Cohn dancing. And I encourage you just to look it up on on my YouTube, it is everything that you hope it is. You know, it is all of the things that I know you're wishing it is. It's really wonderful. Look, the people that I mentioned a moment ago wouldn't have been able to get away with it without protectors in the fake news media. Consider the birth of Black Lives Matter in the first place in Ferguson, Missouri. The media pushed the meme of hands up, don't shoot. It's a simple falsehood. It's not what happened in Ferguson. But the media told us it was, and that's certainly what many in the black community still believe. Everyone got in on the act, and it only inflamed tensions between blacks and the police. Whenever the media talks about fake news, whenever they mention it, I think of those burning cities and the blood on the streets, thanks to people like this. And the hypocrisy brings me to a rare moment of seriousness in an otherwise fairly unserious life. But that level of hypocrisy does shock me sometimes. Remember that NBC, to give just one example, edited the George Zimmerman 911 call to make it sound like he brought up race first, as opposed to answering a question. There's another example of media fanning the flames. And the final fake news example that I'll give you is again from Milwaukee. Cyril Smith was shot by a black cop after pointing a gun at him. His sister, Sherelle, was shown on the news, but most media sources showed only half of her quote. They showed her saying with great passion, "Burning down shit ain't gonna help nothing. You're burning down shit we need in our community." What they didn't show you was her saying, "Take that shit to the suburbs and burn that down." And they didn't show you all sorts of other things. I mean, most media reports didn't mention the ethnicity of the police officer because they wanted to suggest to you, without saying it, without quite lying, suggest to you this was another incidence of lingering racism in America, when it wasn't. Oh, unless you believe some university professors who say that black cops have internalized white supremacy. But even I can't approach that level of fucking stupidity. I mean, I don't even know how to make jokes about it. I honestly don't. And maybe the mainstream media will stop with the fake news, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Chicago, just down the highway from here, is the perfect example of how liberals always get race wrong. The city has terrible black-on-black crime, but Black Lives Matter and other black leaders are never around to talk about it, and the media doesn't want to either. The leading health hazard of black men isn't obesity or heart disease, as bad as they are. It is living in Chicago. Chicago is currently at 742 homicides in 2016. Probably go up by the time people watch this speech on YouTube. It clocks up. It's close to doubling the numbers from last year, from 2015. About 78% of the victims are black. The vast majority of those people killed by guns were shot by other black people. You will never hear Black Lives Matter mention it. Ever. Chicago, of course, has some of the tightest gun control anywhere in the United States. The mayor is an Obama insider, and the city has been under Democrat control forever. None of this makes sense to the typical liberal, and black leaders simply choose to ignore it. The policies of liberalism could never fix Chicago. They can only make it worse. Chicago doesn't need government programs, it needs jobs. It doesn't need pandering from the media and race baiting, it needs education and better housing. It needs the safety for the citizens of its worst neighborhoods like Austin and Englewood. It needs people to know that they can walk down the street without having to dodge bullets. Now, Donald Trump pointed all of this out, and the left went crazy and called him a racist. But many black people are brave enough to stand up and say the same things. They're just not put on TV. At some point, Chicagoans are going to get tired of living like they're in Aleppo instead of one of the top cities in the United States. But there's not much sign of it yet, and that's partly because the media lies to you so much. No speech on race baiting would be complete without several statistics that liberals would call hate facts, because it's easier than dealing with the truth. I don't take any pleasure, by the way, in some of these statistics. It's not fun. But you can't fix things unless you tell the truth about them in the first place. You should have eaten fewer baked beans this evening. Yes, from the look of you, diet is a problem. No. Oh, stop the presses, a gay man's catty. Oh, good Lord. No speech. Oh dear. Oh dear. Let me tell you, sir, fat shaming works. Of course it works. I mean, who would ever imagine that fat shaming wouldn't work? Like somebody you love, so do I look hot in this? No, not anymore. You'd stop eating. And in fact, all the studies suggest. All right, sweetheart. Criminologist Dr. Richard Johnson from the University of Toledo. You want some facts? Here are some. Based on the 2012 numbers, it would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by police to equal the total number of blacks murdered by police in a single year. 900 people have been killed by cops in 2016. 47% were white males. Only 24% were black males. Black men are not killed out of proportion, especially considering that they're much more likely to interact with cops. People are killed by police about as often as they're killed by lightning. There are no protests about storms. Black males are 58% of those killed legally by private citizens in self-defense. You might think that's an aha moment about racist whites, but 75% of those were killed by other blacks. FBI statistics on murder lay bare the real threats to black lives in America. Black men are about 6.5% of the US population, but they commit 52% of all murders over a 30-year period, which has dipped to about 40% in recent years, but still horribly and vastly disproportionate. Black men overwhelmingly murder other black people. Whites overwhelmingly murder other whites. That's not the narrative from Black Lives Matter. Looking at overall violent crime, blacks are 27 times more likely to attack whites than vice versa, and 8 times more likely to attack Hispanics. That's a shocking number I hope you take away from my visit. 90% of blacks that die from murder die at the hands of other black people. Is that enough facts for you? I could go on. Much of the modern race divide as practiced by Black Lives Matter is built on the idea of white privilege. Now, when you're rubbing shoulders with crazy feminists, and it sounds like she's both, both a crazy, when you come into contact with these ideas like privilege, you need to learn to run a mile. God, they're gluttons for punishment, aren't they? Do you want more? Because I've got all night. Good, okay. Male privilege, like white privilege, is bullshit. If white privilege were a thing, why do so many people work so hard to be black? All of the award shows, cultural events, all favor black culture. Sean King does his damnedest to appear black, despite the handicap of being born white to 2 white parents. Well, it's an impediment to his chosen profession, race baiting, you know. One of my favorite people, who is acutely aware of the realities of white privilege, is Rachel Dolezal. Now here, she's the real deal when it comes to trans blackness. You know, she puts Sean King in the shade. She's altered her appearance through, and I'm sorry to tell you, I'm a horrible failure as a gay man. I don't even know what this means. But she has what she describes as atomic tanning sessions. She's achieved this new look through atomic tanning. Atomic tanning. And some kind of deal with the devil for this hair. She has altered her appearance so much to attempt to pass as black. Incidentally, cis black women spend their entire lives fighting against this hair. This is something that only a white woman would wear quite like that. She's in an effort to embrace her supposed inner blackness and reject her German and Czech dead ethnicities. And America used to describe this as going native. This woman is a professor of Africana education. God knows what that is. And she's also president of the local NAACP chapter, which is the only career that you'll ever have. In which capacity she came to the attention of local media by claiming several racial threats, which of course, obviously... You wish! Oh, they're leaving. Oh, bless them. Truth hurts, huh? Thanks, baby. Dear, you see, they all leave in the end, their tails between their legs. I hadn't even given them their cookies. I have a box of cookies for them. All right. Well, children need to be pacified at bedtime. Doljal is also the president of the local NAACP chapter, in which capacity she came to the attention of local media by claiming several racial threats, which the police, of course, have been unable to verify. You're not really trans-black unless you've got a verified racial threat against you. Sean King does lots of good things. She has a fake black dad. Did you know that? She posted on Facebook. She just took a picture with a random black dude and said it was her dad on Facebook. Her real dad wasn't very happy about that when the local news crews showed up and said, "Are you Rachel?" She's like, "Yes, I fucking am." Rachel. She pretends that her adopted black brother is her son, or at least she did until she was exposed. Nobody takes things that far besides crazy white girls. Just kidding. Why would a person go to this much trouble? Why would a person do this? Why would they try to shed this supposedly incredible privilege of being white? Well, because she knows what everybody else knows, that white privilege is a myth. And actually, you can play your ethnic and racial and sexual and gender identities, all of these things. This is not just about skin color. You can play any kind of vaguely minority identity for influence and for profit and for advantage in an America where grievance and victimhood have become currency. This isn't new, by the way. This is not a new thing. How else to explain the decline in record sales and or success of the king of pop during his own transition from black to white? This is example. This is some data I've collected. As Michael Jackson got whiter, he got much less successful. No, I'm kidding. Part of the... I mean, it is true, but probably incidental. He was just a bit mad. The reason I chose this topic to talk about, and I have gone further than I ever have on this subject before and made a few off-color jokes and probably upset people and all the rest of it, is that I don't mind who I offend and who I upset, because I know that I'm not prejudiced, I know that I'm not a racist, and I know that none of you are either. And it's my sincere belief that America needs to get over the poison, the cancer of identity politics. It's my sincere belief that we should return... It's my sincere belief that we should return to that awesome dead dude, Martin Luther King, just about one of the most inspiring people that America has ever produced. We should remember his words, because it seems like only Republicans really believe in the words of Martin Luther King, which maybe shouldn't surprise us, since the Democrats are, of course, the party of the KKK, and racial division since they have existed. But America, as I understand it as a European, having come here from a continent that does not have this sort of racial tension, we just don't have it. And there's nothing else particularly different about us, except for your wacky far-left progressives who incited and started this culture war. It's the only real difference. It's the only explanation as to where it might have come from. We don't have it. And coming from somewhere where West Indian Africans, for instance, are so well integrated, they came over. The West Indian Africans came over to Britain more British than the British, speaking better English, playing cricket. No one actually plays cricket. That's just something that you see on TV. No British people play cricket. It's like those bow ties you all wear in Washington, D.C., because, they think it's all sophisticated and British. We think you look ridiculous. Coming from a country where idea and principle were seen as important. British values have always been important to British people. And whether it was Indian immigrants who came in after the Second World War, never get into trouble, never see their names in the paper, integrated brilliantly and beautifully, whether it was West Indian Africans, Britain has a really great track record of bringing people together under sort of the shared umbrella of British values. Only one sort of immigration hasn't had a very good track record with that, and it's of course Islamic immigration, but we'll save that for another day. I came to America thinking that things would be even better, thinking that this was a country that was based on the Constitution, the First and Second Amendment, was a country that wasn't like European countries, hadn't sort of evolved on the basis of ethnography and geography and sort of just geographic racial factors or whatever. Actually, had been birthed out of ideas, and really good ideas, the best ideas, that had made it the greatest country in the history of human civilization. And it is. It's a wonderful place still, despite the efforts of the left. It still is a really cool country, the best country. But I found that it was being ruined steadily, inexorably, and this had been going on for decades, by people who believed that skin color, sexuality, and gender were more important than ideas, were more important than what you believe, what you learn, and who you are. I fundamentally disagree with that. I fundamentally reject that proposition, that the most important difference between people is the color of their skin, or who they want to fuck, or what organs they were born with. And America, at its greatest, at its best, is a country born out of total and complete devotion to property rights, freedom, capitalism, free speech, all of the things that make this country a wonderful place to live, enshrined and embodied in the Constitution and the amendments. It would be nice if America remembered what made it great in the first place. Now, you did a good thing, rejecting the grievance culture and identity politics of the left at the last election, but there is an enormous mountain left to climb if you want to save the academy, save the media, and save the entertainment industry. I hope you do it. If any of you have been offended this evening, good. I say off-color things not because I enjoy upsetting people, although some people deserve to be upset, but because I want to convey to you that nothing bad happens when your feelings are hurt. And far more important than that is setting aside, in some cases, valid grievances and coming together under the umbrella of values that have made this country wonderful and that have given or should offer up the promise of giving every young American, regardless of where they come from, skin color, sexuality, you name it, the opportunity to get a good education, start a business, and maybe even be president one day. And that's my message to you as you leave, is stop responding, pandering to, stop allowing these people who want to divide you by those stupid categories to control how you see the world. I tell jokes that people find very uncomfortable. And some people will recoil and say, well, that actually is a bit sexist. Actually, that is a bit racist. That tanned line. I mean, you can't say things like that. But I do it for a reason. I do it because at the end of our evening together, nobody died. Nothing bad happened. And you all, I hope, are going to go away with something to think about, which is that fixating on what separates us only gives you Detroit, Chicago, Milwaukee, Ferguson. separating and focusing on what brings people together takes America to the moon and builds the internet. This country has the potential to continue to be the greatest civilization, the greatest shining beacon, the jewel in the crown of the history of human civilization, but it can only do that if it soundly, completely, and utterly rejects all of the propositions of the progressive left. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Hey, how are you? Mwah. What do you want from me?
Savannah's going to be the questions from Twitter. I'll be in the audience.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to take some questions from more polite... Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Gifts gratefully received. No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much. I think we have some questions from Twitter and some questions from you. So what should we alternate? You want to do one and then I'll pick someone from here?
Yeah, we're going to start with some of the questions we got on Twitter tonight. I just want to
like.
thank everybody for their participation. Milo, the first question we have for you tonight is, what advice do you give to students that feel they can't speak up amidst liberal ideas from teachers and professors?
Right. Well, I used to say, you're right, you can't stand up for it, you'll destroy your education, keep a low profile. I now think, thanks to the election of the glorious God Emperor, there may be a little crack in the window. There may be a little opening now where you can, using facts and reason and logic, have a little glimmer of, and a little dash of humor, wrapping the truth in a good joke, as I like to say all the time. Draw attention to the hypocrisies and stupidity and absurdities on campus around you. Now, there will be professors you have. Anybody heard of Daniel Brewster? This is this nasty, what did I call him? Fat faggot? Yeah. Well, he is. There will be professors that are irredeemable, in Hillary Clinton's words, that you're going to have to either change classes, change away from their classes, or just write what they want you to write to pass. I would encourage you to deploy the free market principles that work so well in the wider society, and vote with your feet. And when you encounter professors who treat you like this, leave, change your course, switch away, do something else with someone else, and leave them with a classroom of 4 social justice warriors, all of whom fail. Vote with your feet and punish the professors through reason, logic, mature response. Challenge them to treat you fairly. Challenge them to respect and listen to your points of view. And if they really, really, really just don't want to know, dump them, because they need you way more than you need them. Colleges are a marketplace, and you are consumers, you are customers, and there is something happening on campuses after Trump's election. I can feel it. There's something a bit different on campuses. The energy now has changed. The energy is with us. The energy is, with libertarians, conservatives, Generation Trump, whatever you want to call it. It's with these red hats. Used to be the case when I was doing this 6 months ago. You'd have sort of furtive, timid conservatives inside, and vast crowds of angry, baying liberals outside. Well, it's changed. Look how utterly pathetic their protests are now. And sort of last strangled complaints from, hectic, dying movements and awful fat monsters and dreadful, awful people, desperate and panicking because they realize they lost. And you guys won. So sit back and enjoy it. And your professors aren't going to like everything you say, but particularly if you're at a public university, they are legally obliged to let you say it.
All right, I think now we're going to take a question in the audience with Andrew.
Is Andrew picking, or shall I pick? Let me choose.
You pick.
I'll make Andrew run. Okay, here's a question. You can't yell, that's not fair on everyone else. Everyone will start shouting. You have a friend to point at you, so you're not going. That's cheating. You know what, I like cheating. Let's go with him. Yeah, the one that had the 2 hands up. Yeah.
Basically, my question, Milo, is how do we actually bridge the gap between this divide that's actually been caused by the regressive left and obviously colleges and just society in general. How do we move forward and begin to get these at least fervent, I guess, individuals back onto our side, back on the side of the right, and actually start moving forward, actually progressing towards a better society?
Well, believing that you can save or fix anyone is a fantasy that only liberals indulge in. Conservatives tend to be a little more realistic about things. You will never recover the brains, the wilted remains of what used to be an intellect from the sorts of people who were yelling this evening. They are not going to be redeemable. You can get them to sort of sheepishly back off as they realize their positions have no merit and no logic behind them, but you're never really going to save those brains because they were damaged to begin with. You can, well, it's a sort of acting out of mental dysfunction, social justice, sort of I want the world to hurt as much as I'm hurting. It's like, all right, we get it, I just wish they'd yell at each other instead of us, just leave the rest of us alone. But you can save moderates, and I think one of the ways to do that is to confound expectations and stereotypes. I mean, I say things that you wouldn't normally expect somebody who looks and sounds like me to say. And, just demonstrating with humor and wit that identity politics is nuts. Demonstrating, through being joyful and happy and loving and accommodating that all the stuff they say about conservatives is garbage. Rather than sort of fighting fire with fire, trying to be angry and earnest and furious like they are, just live good, happy lives and let people be the judge. Because they were the judge at the last election. They realized who the hateful people were. I went to Memories Pizza last week because it was my view that Memories Pizza was a sort of ground zero for it was the first moment when America realized that actually the left were cunts. Nasty, spiteful, vindictive bastards, the people who claimed to be in support of tolerance and all the rest of it. And I felt so deeply ashamed. In this era where we're all identified by our victim group, I felt so ashamed of my fellow homosexuals, although I didn't, identify with them really. But I felt so ashamed that this lovely, sweet, kind family, these good people, had their business almost destroyed and their lives torn apart by these sociopathic cunts in the media. And I really hated the gay press for that. I really did. I went to go visit them, and I just saw how good and decent and compassionate these people were. And America saw that and voted with their feet and with their wallets. They gave the guys nearly $1 million to make sure the business didn't go under. And they did it at the last election too. You can demonstrate, I think, by having good-natured fun like this. Have you been to a Trump rally? Anybody in here been to a Trump rally? You compare the way the media reports on it, like it's this sort of terrifying, baying crowd of white supremacist neo-Nazis, and we're all there and we're just like laughing and joking and singing, and you're like, what? Just demonstrate by doing that everything they say about you is wrong, and you tend to start winning over people in the middle. People are realizing now that perhaps in the 90s the religious right were the problem for culture. They were the ones who were, saying video games could do things that video games cannot do. But it's now the progressive left. The progressive left is spiteful and ugly and nasty and angry, and people don't like any of those things. All you have to do, they don't like any of those things. All you have to do is just be good and decent and funny and likable and, go to the gym a few days a week and you'll win. Do you want to do a Twitter one?
Yeah, I'll have another question from Twitter. What do you think were some of the major events that contributed to the overly PC culture we have today?
I think there's one answer to this question, and I think it is the total capitulation of Republican elites to fight the culture wars. I think it is the total abnegation of responsibility on behalf of the conservative press, the conservative media, conservative academics, conservative celebrities, if there are any, and everybody else, maybe there's now, everybody else. Thank you. Everybody else who has ever dared to wear the label Republican in public over the age of 30, they did nothing for you guys. They didn't fight. They gave up. They handed universities over to the left. They handed Hollywood over to the left. They handed the media over to the left. They didn't fight for it. They didn't fight on any of the battlefields that mattered, because politics doesn't matter. By the time you're voting for a candidate, the war is already lost. Culture's what matters. And culture is formed in the academy, and on your TV screen and in books and on the page of the newspaper and on network television. And in all of those arenas, the conservatives who should have had your back and should have been paving the way for a country defined by freedom, capitalism, and the First and Second Amendments, instead they just handed it over the left to fuck up, and the left fucked it up. So I don't think it was one thing. I think it was a steady weakening of republicanism and of conservatism in the US over the space of the last 30 or 40 years that basically handed your country over to some really fucking bad people. Your parents' generation handed this country over to really, really awful people. Well, thank God that this new movement energized by Donald Trump, this new movement created by, a new wave of populist, nationalist, fun-loving, mischievous, dissident young conservatives, thank God you've got the balls to take it back. Please do so. Please do so. Because you have one last chance now with Trump's election, one last moment, a little window of a decade or two, where you can stop, you can arrest America's decline, and you can make sure that it remains a superpower for 1,000 years. You cannot do that unless you completely eradicate the progressive left from every one of the major organs of civil society. Please go forth and do it.
All right, I think we're going to take another question from the audience.
Milo, this is going to be the last question we have time for this evening.
In the black with the, yeah.
Yasophile, that is Greek, because I'm sure you know that. I have a two-part question. One is for myself and one is for my brother.
Okay.
My question, really quick, because it's kind of a stupid one, is what are your thoughts on Kanye at Trump Tower today, or yesterday?
Well, Kanye, of course. I mean, like anybody glamorous and fantastic and mischievous has got to be a Trump supporter. Of course Kanye is a Trump supporter. Of course he is. And there are lots of people who are now sort of silently, quietly admitting that they might have been. Paris Hilton, total Trump supporter. Of course she was. Love her. Well, I mean, no, of course I do. I mean, Of course I do. No, she's a great example, actually, of America done right. I mean, she's somebody with absolutely no discernible talents whatsoever, who has, through sheer force of... I mean, she's not particularly good-looking. She can't sing, she can't act, she can't dance, she can't do anything. She's not smart, she's got nothing. But she's managed to turn herself, just sort of through sheer force of will, and okay, a bit of money, but through sheer force of will, I mean, to just to turn herself into, like, an international... celebrity. I think that's awesome. I think it's wonderful. It's America done right. Kanye is, Kanye and Trump probably got on well because neither of them really read books. So they, sorry to say, Daddy's not perfect. I do wish he'd read more often. But, like a lot of people who think they're really smart but don't actually read anything, they either get on brilliantly or kill each other. Well, when he runs in 2024 and becomes president, I think that Kanye will look back on his meeting at Trump Tower and identify that as the moment where everything in America became possible. Because Trump hasn't even really taken office yet, but that meeting, I think, sort of... Well, post-Trump, anything's possible, right? I mean, literally anyone could get elected now, like, on absolutely anyone. And it seems perfectly obvious to me that Kanye is going to run in 2024 for the Democrats and obviously win. He might be the most sensible candidate they've ever run. I was happy to see him at Trump Tower, mostly because it annoyed all the right people, but also because the sort of coalition that Trump is assembling, weird and wonderful and silly characters that loved him, like me, I guess, and serious patriots like Michael Flynn and Eric Prince, and now celebrities as well. The coalition he's assembling represent, across the board, many of the best things about this country, to the horror and consternation of the snobby elites who think that they're all, unspeakably gauche. I love that. I think America is an intensely tabloid country at its heart. It's only the coastal elites who have aspirations to appropriateness. Real America, as I have experienced it as an outsider, is messy and scruffy and raucous and fun and loud and boisterous. I love that, and the people that like Trump are all like that, and Kanye is like that. And I think he's. I wish he wouldn't speak quite so much, but he's certainly one of the most impressive creative minds that this country's ever produced. Of course, he likes Trump. And what was the second bit of the question?
Hello, Milo. You're my favorite. Anyways,
Hi.
I'm writing my.
Are you the brother?
Yes, I am.
Oh, perfect. Okay, fine. It actually was for your brother. It was you, in fact, your brother.
I'm writing my master's thesis on the asylum seeker crisis in Europe, and I would love to cite you if you give some opinion to it so I could write on the thesis.
Yes.
Piss off my teachers.
Yes. Come and see me afterwards. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. This has been lovely. I'm going to return to my chariot. I think I'm going to have the opportunity to meet some of you in a minute. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for listening so intently and being respectful, not only of me, but also of some of the more boisterous idiots in the audience. They always show up. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could keep your seats for just a moment for me. If you could just sit down for just a moment. All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for coming out this evening. We really want to thank you for giving up your time and hearing Milo. Unfortunately, because we did go so long because of some of the various interruptions, those of you who do have tickets to the meet and greet, we are unfortunately not going to be able to do that this evening. So I apologize for that. So the few of you that did have that, we are going to go ahead and have you guys leave as well. But that's all for this evening. Thank you very much and have a great evening. when he gets up there, he's going to cue it up kind of like he did the one in Michigan State. Yeah. Yep. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Good. Andy. Hey, folks, just let you know this is.
All right. All right. So we're good. All right. So we provided all the guidelines that you have to follow tonight. We'd really appreciate it if you respected those and followed those. So Turning Point USA is a nonpartisan organization, and as such, we do not associate ourselves with any political party. For the last 20 minutes of the event, we will be opening this up to a Q&A. We will be doing this on Twitter, so if you could use the hashtag AskMILO, MKE. It's going to be up there as well if you forget. So I will get this show on the road, and I'd like to welcome MILO to the stage.
Look at this way. Hello. What is this? What is this? Are they protecting you or me? They call these things cattle something or other. I can never remember. Good heavens. Hi, how are you? Thank you for coming. Sorry, I've...
To sound like InfoWars. And although I like Alex very much, I think he's wonderful, but it is amazing to sort of to hear CNN and MSNBC and all these other networks start to sound like InfoWars, and they don't realize they're burning the last vestiges of credibility. The last remaining slivers of credibility are completely going. Speaking of credibility, universities like to shred theirs by opening things like the Inclusive Excellence Center. You have an Inclusive Excellence Center, which you would imagine might mean something about, I don't know, somebody who's good at lots of subjects, who becomes valedictorian for, passing, triple majoring in something. No. The Inclusive Excellence Center. They always sound so fucking sinister, don't they? These left-wing Orwellian things. They sort of, you can imagine it sort of in a building next to the Ministry of Truth. And it would fit in, in ways that Orwell never imagined. Why? Because the purpose of the Inclusive Excellence Center is neither to include anyone nor be excellent at anything, but is instead to control the speech of students through hilarious efforts like the Just Words campaign. Have any of you fallen foul of the Just Words campaign? No, it is bullshit, you're right. Now, there are all sorts of words you're not supposed to say, and I'm going to be saying all of them in the course of this speech. Basically all of them. This is a strategy designed to scare you, designed to make you fearful. It's like, these are the words you're not allowed to say on pain of being a hateful bigot who deserves to be, thrown off a cliff or murdered or something. These people don't learn. They don't learn. They've spent your money, your tuition fees, on a strategy designed to enforce politics through language, not realizing that it was precisely that. I mean, if they were clever, if they were smart, if they were paying attention, they would realize that it is entirely contrary to the human spirit to accept this sort of stuff. It is entirely contrary to human nature to allow your opinions, your thoughts, your aspirations, and your dreams, and your sense of humor to be shaped by people who want to allow you and disallow you various words. In fact, it produces a counter-revolution. It produces mischief and dissidence and subversion. It produces defiance. It produces Donald Trump. They did it. They created Daddy. And aren't we happy about it? They did it. I'll give you some examples from the Just Words campaign. Things you're not supposed to say. Right. Apparently, you can't say, "Are you deaf?" when someone doesn't hear you, because a deaf person might be offended. How? How would they know? I mean, I suppose in some bizarro parallel universe, they're kind of going around lip reading, looking to be offended by everyone. Some sort of orally challenged social justice warrior, just going around lip reading if anyone's saying, "Are you deaf?" and going, oh, a bit too much for some of you. Too much for some of you. You see, I just did what Donald Trump has never done: make fun of the disabled. Donald Trump never did it. He never did it. He does this for all sorts of stupid people. You remember that reporter who had some kind of awful condition, the poor lamb? But Donald Trump does this for all kinds of stupidity. There are sort of 6 or 7 or 10 different videos of him doing this, and of course, they never mention that, even though they know it. They sort of try to pretend that he was making fun of disabled people. No, this is what making fun of disabled people looks like, and it's funny. So maybe not very presidential, but it's funny. Look. Ridiculous. How are they ever going to know? You're not supposed to say, "That's gay." Now, of course, they have correctly identified the one thing they get right, and this is something about progressives, they get some right and then they sort of fail towards the end. They have correctly identified that the real meaning of gay is not sucks dick. The real meaning of gay is crap, rubbish, shit, lame, Hillary supporting, immigrant loving, Muslim pandering. That is the correct meaning of gay. When you say something like, "Oh my God, that's so fucking gay," what you mean is, it sucks. Now, they have correctly identified that bit. What they've failed to take into account, however, is that it is a really enjoyable way to tell people to go fuck themselves. And the more you tell people, look, I mean, I'm like an eternal 14-year-old. I'm basically 14. My whole life I will be 14 years old. But I am not unique in enjoying getting into trouble. I am not unique in enjoying mischief. I am not unique in defying the powers that be. In fact, most young people have a little dash of this in them. And when you tell them you can't do something, they want to do it. It makes them want to do it. There was a campaign in the UK to ban the word gay from the playground. And I was invited on TV with some thick as pig shit pop star to debate this. Will Young, you probably never heard of him. He's sort of our Rufus Wainwright, just as thick and totally devoid of talent, but popular because he smiles nicely. There was this campaign to rid the playground of the word gay. And I said, which I thought was perfectly reasonable, can you imagine if you were in the playground and your teacher said, "Don't say gay"? What would you say for the next 4 years? You're like, "Gay, gay, gay." That might actually it might actually cause a young gay person to feel uncomfortable when the whole school's saying it, and the whole school's saying it because they were told they can't. This is one of the many ways in progressives simply don't understand human nature at all. They don't get it. Of course, you can't say, according to the Just Words campaign, "illegal alien." You can't say in many places in America, "illegal alien." Because it might admit that America has a problem with illegals. They want to call it something, they want to call it undocumented immigration, like it's a clerical error, rather than a deliberate strategy by the Democrats to fuck the Republicans, rather than a deliberate plan to import millions of new voters. throw them on welfare, and thereby guarantee themselves the presidency for generations. Like it's not a deliberate effort to radically reshape what America looks like and how America votes. And they want you to call it undocumented immigration, like it's a fucking mistake with a paperclip. I think America knows better, and America voted accordingly at the last election to demonstrate that. I have gone through the interminable visa process to come into this country. You know, it's interesting. America is sort of seen as this great land of sort of freedom and the free market and all the rest of it. The one bit of America that is really, really fucking terrible, and I now finally understand, after having gone through the process of getting a visa to be here, and I wasn't allowed to talk about it while the application was still pending, because, you know, public employees can be so vindictive and bitter. I never understood just how shit your government is. Just how utterly useless the federal government is at absolutely everything. Everything. There are bits of it that work well. There are bits of it that you could be hugely proud of and grateful for. For instance, law enforcement. And we're going to get on to, in a minute, why you should be so grateful for the police and all of the great bravery that, and acts of valor that they conduct on a daily basis whilst being slandered routinely, lied to and lied about all the time by the media. There are bits of it that work okay, and individuals who work really, really well. But has anyone in here ever been to the DMV? Has anyone in here ever been to the Social Security office? I mean, there's a reason Europeans are more relaxed with big government, because ours actually fucking works. Awful. Awful. I feel very sorry for you, and I hope that Donald Trump takes a scythe to large branches of the American government. I want to close the Department of Education and basically just shut most of the rest of it down. Sitting in that Social Security office, I felt like I needed a safe word, you know? It was that bad. My safe word is women can be funny. No, they can. I mean, I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure there is one. One of the words you shouldn't use, according to Just Words, is Nazi. You're not supposed to call people a Nazi, which is weird, because... Of course, as always, with progressive social justice warriors, feminists, Black Lives Matter, and all of their friends, it is one rule for the people in this room and one rule for everybody else. One final word I have to mention from Just Words, and it is man up. They don't like it when you say man up. Enforcing, what is it they call it? Heteropatriarchal notions of toxic masculinity. Fuck off! God, man up's a big no-no for liberals. They're intent on eliminating masculinity from culture. Toxic masculinity and rape culture are some other idiotic things they like to say in their war against men. Well, I'll tell you one UW-Milwaukee student that does not need to man up. And that is Justine Kramer. Bit late, didn't have time to get dressed. Thank you, I know. All right. Well, we're not here, in fact, to have fun this evening. We're here to talk about something very serious. We'll have a little bit of fun on the way. We've had a bit of drama on the way in. A little bit of chaos from your crazy friends wandering around, shoving my cameraman about. Actually, no, it's true. It's actually, and because we are such a beautifully well-oiled machine, such a wonderful operation of the kind that only Republicans could put together. We can, in fact, share with you some of the lovely behavior of your fellow students towards innocent cameramen. Do we have that somewhere? Can we show that? Oh, there we go. Yeah. You see, it all happens very quickly.
USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
I don't know this now.
MILO. She doesn't even know my fucking name.
Hey, you're just pushing me. MILO. What are you grabbing me for? Why are you guys pushing me?
Who's the one starting it? Just USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Get away from my back.
No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
No KKK, no fascist USA! You guys are the real fascists!
USA! No MILO! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA! No MILO! No KKK! No fascist USA!
Pushing me?
No MILO!
These people are assaulting people! What are you talking about?
No one's trying to do something. Just stop. Hey, man.
What are you talking about?
Why are you in our faces with
You're
the
assaulting people! You are assaulting people!
Freedom Nazi!
I'm a Nazi now! Can you prove that? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Fuck off! Do you know who I am? Give that shit! Is that what you got? You Kick shit! How do we attack people? Fuck you. Go home, Nazi scum! Go home, Nazi scum! I'm tired of being told by these fascists who to hate. You know what
Nazism has taken a very camp turn, if this is the face of...
That's the class. That's the class of fascism. How is he not? How is he not? How is he not? Explain. He's a prejudiced racist. How am I racist? Because I'm not white. Easy as that. Easy as that. You hear that? Because I am white, I am a racist. Stewart, look at the name of his Stewart. Who is he downgrading? This guy just discredited himself. Sorry, guys. How racism comes from a position of power? Something called people don't have. Who disagrees with that? Who disagrees with that?
Yeah, we'll catch you outside the university. We'll have a conversation about it there. Yeah, come to the hood. We'll catch you. I'll show you my face outside the university. How about we go fucking across the street? Let's go across the street and talk.
You're a leftist ideologue. You don't care about facts.
Yeah, you're a right.
I don't care about you. Center left liberal. You fucking idiot.
Well, if this is the face of neo-Nazism in America, Nazis got really gay. Good heavens, good heavens. Well, that's the standard of reasoned critique and grown-up debate that you can expect on American college campuses on the subject of race. I'm going to tell you this evening how this has happened, why it's happened, and more importantly, because I like to draw attention to villains, who did it? Now, first of all, we should talk a little bit about where we are. The land, Wisconsin, of cheese, alcohol, and clinically obese lesbians. They are. What's that, darling? Oh, he is. No, I know. He's been following me. He's been following me everywhere. He was in Iowa when I was in Iowa. Now he's here. I'm like, my God, please, just get your own thing. But it's okay. Cheese, alcohol, and obese lesbians, three things that really I couldn't live without. Now, my tour was planned... I'm using you. My tour was planned with such care by my staff that we're in Wisconsin and Minnesota in December. Trying to kill me. They should have brought me up in the 1 month a year the weather is better here. The problem with the Midwest isn't the cold or the dikes, however. It is the proximity to Canada. You're going to have to... I mean, you've done some of the work so far this evening to convince me that you're not something approaching Trudeauian cucks. By dint of geography. We'll work it out over the course of the evening. Of course, the real cucks are over at UW-Madison. Now... Imagine how much worse it would have been if I'd shown up there. The only reason I didn't is I didn't want people to die. Triggering would register on the Richter scale. Well, of course you did. because nobody cares. No, I came to you as a far more sound campus, partly because I wanted to celebrate the recount with you. Jill Stein's recount. It's sad, isn't it? They go through all of that name calling and safe space trigger warning crap and lying about people and all the media, academia, everybody, and they lose the election, and then suddenly, like a shaft of light in St. Peter's Basilica, down from the heavens comes the promise of hope in the form of Jill Stein. Opportunistic fuck. Who raises 2 million, no refunds, 2 million, like, overnight, I wonder from whom, to do a recount that in every state, Trump's gone up, you know, and not even up by satisfying numbers, up by like 20 or 316, you know, like, who gives a shit? You know, but no, you turned red, and congratulations, well done. Well done. And this in the face of much upheaval in your... Are we keeping you from something? Upheaval in your basketball program, for instance. They fired the coach this year after 11 seasons, which you might have imagined was thanks to poor performance, player academics, or clashing personality of the athletic director. But I am told that they've been thinking like Democrats. They think it's Russian hackers responsible for all the bad... No, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing? So you lose the election, and you sort of, you know, you kind of thrash around for a bit, and then you pick this guy that's been sort of selected as an advisor, and you call him a white supremacist and an anti-Semite, just desperately hoping that something, anything, will stick. And it doesn't. And, you know, they haven't learned anything. They haven't learned that the name-calling doesn't work. They haven't learned anything from the election, just calling people racist and sexist and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't win them over. You need arguments. You need to persuade people, not bully them, and they haven't learned this. And so they go around looking for somebody to blame, whether it's Steve Bannon or whatever. And now they're coming for the conservative press. They're coming for good conservative press, like Breitbart. They're coming for places no one's ever heard of, like the Daily Wire. They're coming for... Stop it. I should stop, shouldn't I? It's like shooting a corpse. It's like sort of kicking a dead dog. No, I'm sure the money will run out soon. But, well, the Wilkes brothers have got no reason to keep writing the checks now. I wonder whether they realize how insane they sound. The media, I'm saying to you. The idea that you could start calling everybody white supremacists, anti-Semites, and sexist and racist, and, you know, even though like half of women voted for Trump, it's still sexism. You know, all this kind of stuff, and you look around for someone to blame, and you're like, I know, why don't we say the whole election was like Russian hackers or something? You know, the whole media is starting